Bizarre Reality Media. The reality we live in can be a very strange place. Most of the time, fact being stranger than fiction. How will we ever start to understand this reality we live in unless we question everything? Join me and a guest as we unravel the mysteries of this reality, one topic at a time. This is Inquiries of Our Reality with Shayn Jones. What is up, Inquirers, and welcome to the expanse of deep conversational exploration into the fringes of social norms. I'm the one they call Shane, aka the original Shane Squatch, and today for you guys, author Nomar Slevik returns with more captivating tales of the paranormal and unexplained. From mysterious deaths to eerie personal encounters, Nomar's stories promise to keep you on the edge of your seats and satisfy your thirst for the paranormal. But before we get into this fascinating conversation, just a couple of quick news and updates as usual. I mentioned it on the last episode, but I'm going to be trying to put together a chat community again. I know it's been a long time since I've tried to do this, but I'm going to try to make an attempt at it again because it seems like I got a pretty good base of listeners, and I would definitely love to be able to communicate and chat with you guys and get to know you guys on a bit of a personal level. So what I'm going to do this time, unlike previous times, is I'm going to try to make sure that the chat group ends up being my main focus as far as responding back, as far as interacting with everybody. But before I can get that rolling, I got to figure out what you guys would prefer, either using Telegram or Discord, whatever might be more user-friendly for you guys. But what I did is I put together a quick survey. It's literally only one question, two options, literally just saying whether you'd prefer Telegram or Discord. You guys don't have to enter your emails. You guys don't have to do none of that. All you guys have to do is click the link, answer the question, and then I can make another step to be able to hopefully put this community together. So if you guys don't mind taking a quick second to be able to tell me what you guys would prefer, the link is available down in the show description, which also goes into the next point. I am still doing the big t-shirt giveaway. I've been doing that for a couple months now, but it is going to still be going on until I reach 50 entries for that. And all that one is all your guys' thoughts and opinions pertaining to the show, so I can hopefully help the show grow and improve coming into this next upcoming year. So if you guys don't mind taking a few moments to be able to put some thought behind your answers, I would definitely appreciate it on a personal level, more than appreciate it. And at the end of the day, all else fails, you guys might end up winning a free t-shirt of your choice off of the merch store. So if you guys might be interested in checking that out, that link is also available down in that show description. And if anybody's interested in catching the next live episode of Bizarre Inquiries, that'll be happening on January 8th over in the usual place, the Bizarre Reality Media, YouTube, Twitch, and Rumble channels. It'll be happening at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as usual. And if you guys have any questions, clips, or articles you guys would like us to chat about for that, make sure you guys get it to us before then. And also, if you guys didn't happen to catch it on the last episode, there will be a lot of new things going on as far as the Patreon goes coming into 2026. I got a bunch of new stuff I've been kind of building up behind the scenes, so hopefully I'm going to start kind of kicking it into action in 2026. Try to ramp up this show as a whole a lot more. So if you guys might be interested in checking out the Patreon to see all of the new updates, let me know what you guys think about the things I'm going to be trying to do over there. You guys can always go and check that out. 7-day free trial is available for you guys. And with that, of course, you guys will get this show, Bizarre Encounters, and anything that I happen to do. And there is another project in the works that will be popping up in the next couple months, so make sure you guys are keeping tabs on that. And this is officially the first little bit of a teaser for that. But moving on, if anyone is interested in being a guest on the show, sharing their encounters or experiences, or contacting me for any reason whatsoever, you guys can do so through email, which is inquiriesofourrealitypodcast@outlook.com. Or you guys could always call or text the Bizarre Reality Media hotline number 24/7, and that number is 313-364-1551. And if you guys are interested in supporting the show and all of the hard work behind it, there are a handful of awesome ways that you guys can do so. First and foremost, you guys can go and check out the Patreon with 2 tiers available, ad-free / early access and full access. And there is a lot of new exciting stuff that's going to be coming as far as the Patreon goes coming into this new year. A lot of new stuff I want to try out with you guys. So hopefully you guys will interact and we can build up an awesome community and possibly even build one up over there on Patreon. And next, you guys could always go and check out the Bizarre Reality Media merch store with t-shirts just $15.68 plus shipping, equals out to about $20 after shipping. So about average for a t-shirt, and you guys can support the little guy in the process, which I definitely appreciate. And if you guys send me a picture of you guys wearing some of my merchandise, I will definitely post it on the pages and give you guys a massive shout out. And if you guys want to, you guys could donate to the show directly, which I greatly appreciate this holiday season, especially because I'm trying to give the kids as good of a Christmas as I possibly can. And fortunately enough, I had somebody from Australia who donated, so another big shout out to you. Again, I greatly appreciate it. But if you guys are interested in doing that, give me an energy drink to keep me up through the night, anything like that, you guys can do so through PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, and all those links are available down in the show notes. And last but not least, you guys can always go and check out the affiliate links with some additional discounts and credits available for you guys down there, coming from Dimension Devices to get yourself some paranormal investigating equipment, or you guys can always go and check out Sticker Mule and get a $10 free credit for stickers, t-shirts, whatever you guys happen to want to use them for. And I know times are tough out there, but if you guys would like to support the show in some other ways, one of the best ways that you guys can do that is through leaving a review or rating for the show on any podcatcher you happen to use to help the show get pushed up in the algorithms a little bit, make it so that the show can be seen by more people, so we can keep growing the community and possibly get some more awesome guests on for you guys. So if you guys don't mind doing that, I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, I will read that on the show and give you guys a big shout out for that one. And you guys can always go and follow the show on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You guys could share the show directly, word of mouth, with anybody that you think might enjoy it. Friends, enemies, co-workers, family members, anybody. Grassroots is always the best way for the show to continue to grow. And you guys can always go and catch live shows and video content on the Bizarre Reality Media YouTube, Rumble, and Twitch channels. And last but not least, another awesome way you guys can support all the work behind the show is by going and checking out my other show, Bizarre Encounters with Shayn Orin, talking about a lot of the same stuff we talk about on this show, but a little bit of a different format because most of the show is our research with some guests mixed in along the way, but might be another podcast to get you guys through your work week. And every single thing that I mention is all available in the link tree, which is available down in that show description. And with that, let's get into the show. Please welcome back to the show one of my personal favorite people to talk to, which is why he's become a semi-regular on the show. Please welcome back to the show, author Nomar Slevik. How's it going, man?
It's going well. Thanks so much, Shane, for having me back. I love coming on the show. I love talking to you. You have such a fun and easygoing personality that it's always a good time. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, man. It's one of those things that you and I will kind of start talking a little bit behind the scenes, and then I always end up trapping you back into a show because I'm always looking for an excuse to be able to chat with you because, as everybody knows, talking screen to screen, voice to voice versus talking through text is always a totally different experience. And, you know, when it comes to friends, you always want to be able to talk to them face to face. Well, as good as we can get face to face, considering we're in the two opposite mitten states, but...
Right.
Well, I guess unlike the last few times, you know, not only do you have author, but you added something new to your list that you're going to be starting back up again. So if you want, before we get into what we're getting into today, why don't you let them know about your upcoming project, man?
Sure. Coming next year, I'm not sure which month, but I'm thinking March-ish. I have a new podcast that's launching. I had a previous podcast that I have stopped, and that's been stopped for a good 8-9 months now. So by the time the new one starts, it'll probably be about a year since I've been podcasting. But the new podcast is called Haunted Pines.
Love it.
And very similar to my old podcast. It's a storytelling podcast, and I'll be sharing some paranormal and bizarre true crime stories from all around the globe. And I'm very excited for that. I'm doing a thing where I'm writing and recording everything basically ahead of time. And then I'm going to be releasing 2 episodes a month, throughout the year.
Well, man, I'm actually pretty excited about it because I don't know if you've recalled, but the last couple of times you've been on, I've made a compliment about like, man, you really have like a really nice podcast voice, like a very good, like easy listening, mellow voice. So I'm super excited to be able to mellow out and listen to your podcast because you have one of those perfect storyteller voices.
Well, thank you very much. And, the other podcast ran for 8 years, 8 seasons, and it was a good time, but Spotify pulled some BS, and it made me, not want to do it anymore, especially through them. But it really soured me to the whole thing for quite a while. And so I took the summer to do this library tour where I got to speak at a bunch of different libraries around my state and had a great time, met a bunch of great people. And it really reminded me how much I love storytelling. So November is the first month I had off all year from doing any sort of appearance. So I've just kind of been chilling and, really getting the itch to tell some stories. And I've been thinking, racking my brain for a while, what kind of podcast I want to do. And of course, storytelling is what I got to do. So I kind of rebranded the old podcast, but there are some format changes that I'm looking forward to. So kind of starting fresh. And the first episode is a bizarre missing person story. We have a department store in New England called Rennie's. And it's, boy, I don't know what it would be similar to, but like, a much smaller and more localized Walmart, if you will. So it's a department store, but there was this woman who was I think she's from Massachusetts, and her husband came up to Maine, and the woman really had to use the bathroom. So she ran into Rennie's to use the bathroom and never came back out. And that's the first story I'll be telling on the podcast. I'm really excited for people to hear it.
Well, I know you don't want to give too much away so people listen to that first episode, but you can't leave me on a total cliffhanger. At least where does the story kind of continue off onto it a little bit?
Well, the husband got worried, and, after 15, 20 minutes of waiting for her outside, he went inside and started walking the aisles. Nowhere to be found. So then he started asking some coworkers and then the manager got involved, and now hours have gone by. So the police get involved, and they end up shutting down the store and searching the entire store to look for her. And she's just nowhere to be found. Like, they were looking everywhere. Like, they even went on the roof, and never been found.
I was going to say, I was hoping that there at least be some type of like conclusion to it, because I was hearing more of like a true crime case a couple of years ago. I think it was on some Netflix show I was watching, but this guy like basically disappeared. They couldn't figure out where he went. They knew he went up on the roof of this hotel, and they ended up finding him in this like closed off area that nobody really entered into. And they only noticed it because of a smell like a couple weeks later. So I was kind of thinking it might have been something like that she fell off of something or disappeared somewhere. And it was like a couple weeks later, somebody finally noticed, but that makes it almost creepier, man. Like that it just straight up disappeared and you never found her again.
It is a creepy story, but there is a twist, and I want to save that for the podcast, but there is a twist conclusion.
Well, yeah, I guess I'll have to include the link down for your podcast whenever it happens to pop up. I'll end up going back and adjusting it and putting it back in here. Cool. But of course, with social media and everything, people can keep tabs on when that exactly is going to come out. But other than that, man, I was hearing that you kind of had some stuff that you somewhat got together tonight, other than some other stuff I want to get into on the back half. And some of the stuff you want to get into tonight was some of your personal experiences that you mentioned you haven't really shared anywhere as far as podcasts and stuff go. You mentioned them in your books. One that's not even possibly out yet. So I'm really excited to get into these stories and update a little bit, because I think the last time you shared one of your personal stories was when you saw the flying humanoid back on the roof. And I feel like that was at least probably like a year or so ago, right?
I think so, probably, yeah. And some of these stories tonight, they come from my childhood. And one of them is when I was probably 7, 8 years old. And we would go visit a family friend, and the whole family would go, and my mom was basically the friend of this woman. She was an elderly woman, And we would go and my dad would do some yard work for her. And my mom would sit inside with the woman and they would have tea and talk and all that good stuff. And my sister and I would play around outside or we'd bug dad. And sometimes we'd go inside and have a snack and all that good stuff. But her house creeped me out. And downstairs, there was like a lot of windows and it was always like bright and sunny. But upstairs, there was like this blue hue to the upstairs that never made sense to me. And I never understood why nobody in my family like would talk about it. I'm
like the whole upstairs or just one room? Like the whole upstairs kind of had this blue hue to it?
Yeah. And, you know, I'm thinking about the walls and stuff, but I think they were just like beige or white or, you know what I mean? So it was just really weird. Like you could be at the bottom of the stairs and look upstairs and there was just like this blue haze. And I would go upstairs to use the bathroom. That's where the bathroom was. And yeah, you would just walk into this blue haze and you wouldn't like walk into it and see it and feel it and stuff. It's just that your eyes kind of saw everything blue. Like you put on, I don't know, like the 3D glasses, but just the blue portion, you know, over your eyes or something. It's really hard to explain, but you would go upstairs and just everything would look blue. If you put your hand in front of your face, you know, it had a blue hue to it. You know, it was really strange. And yeah, I don't know why. I was very confused why nobody talked about it. So this one day, we're over there and I'm at the bottom of the stairs because I got to go pee. And I'm looking up and I'm like, you know, I got to go up there, but I'm scared. But there was something more than the blue hue. I felt like there was a presence up there at this point. You know, I don't know where this feeling came from, but I'm standing at the bottom of the stairs and I'm looking up and I'm like, if I go upstairs to the right of the staircase upstairs, somebody's there. And to the left is where the bathroom is. I tried to say, forget it and go outside and try to sneak a pee outside, but my dad yelled at me and told me to go back inside. So I'm back inside. I'm standing at the bottom of the stairs and my mom's like, what's wrong with you? Just go pee, you know? And I didn't want to tell her I was scared, you know? So I go up the stairs and at the top of the stairs is this little stand and there's a picture. And it's a picture of her husband, of the elderly woman's husband. And he has since passed away. Or, you know, at the time when I was 7, 8 years old, he had passed away. And the photo of him was really creepy. Like, I swear they did it on his deathbed. Like, it was one of those old school, we take a picture of them while they're dead type of thing.
When did that stop, by the way? Because everybody kind of knows about those pictures, but like, when did that stop? That had to have been like, just roughly guessing, probably before World War II, right? So probably like maybe like
think so.
1930s or earlier, probably.
I was thinking earlier. I was thinking late 1800s. You know what I mean? But it probably bled over to like, you know, 1910, something like that. But
such a bizarre thing to prop up the family and take one last family photo with them. I know they still take like that one picture once they're all like cleaned up and ready to go because they got to keep it for record. But like, what a bizarre thing to just be like, I want to have one last memory with this family member and just pose them while they're dead and just take a picture with them. Yeah.
It's certainly weird. So that's what his picture looked like. Like his face was so gaunt. It almost looked like he had like horror movie makeup on, you know, like at least that's how my mind's remembering it. So I get upstairs, I see this creepy picture, and to my right, I can still feel like there's a presence in this room that's to my right, but I'm not going to go into the room, obviously. And I also feel like it's the guy in the picture. Like I'm convinced of it, you know? So I'm like, and and this is all happening in the matter of like 3 seconds. Like I run upstairs, I see the picture. I'm like, and then I'm like, there's something in the room over there. And so I run to the bathroom. That all takes, 10, 15, 20 seconds. So now I'm in the bathroom and I go pee and I wash my hands. And while I'm in there, I hear somebody in the hallway. So I go, Mom? And there's no answer. And dude, like a horror movie, I can see the shadow of 2 feet underneath the door. And I'm like, okay, I'm really scared. Like, and I'm kind of talking to myself. I'm like, please, please, please go away. Just in my head, like I'm freaking out. And I see the shadows of the feet move away. And then I hear movement in the hallway at the same time. So I'm like, okay, did they leave? So after like, I don't know how long, maybe a minute, maybe less, I crack open the door and I peer into the hallway and there's nobody there. And I'm like, okay, this is good. So I swing open the door while still standing in the bathroom and I look even further down the hallway to the left and then to the right. And I don't see anybody, but I get a really strong feeling that the presence is now back in the bedroom. And I feel like even at that time that they were trying to respect me and stay hidden so I wouldn't be scared. So I step out into the hallway and I'm like, so far, so good. And I could just like, I can almost see it in my mind's eye, this thing just hiding around the corner. And they're kind of like trying not to make a noise at all so I wouldn't be scared, And I'm in the hallway and I'm looking into the room. I can't see anything other than like, just a straight shot to like the window that's like in that bedroom or whatever. But I can't see really the bulk of the room. So I just book it downstairs and I get down there and it's all bright and everything. No more blue haze and everything's fine again because, the ghost of the weird guy, didn't get me. But, that's my story at being at that strange house and, freaking out as a 7 or 8 year old and was basically convinced her husband haunts that house. And maybe he does, I don't know.
Just out of curiosity, that picture, did you ever get confirmation by chance that it may have been like a death picture or like maybe like a final photo or anything?
No, I did not. But in telling my mom this story, because I shared this story in my first book, which came out like 11 years ago, and I started writing it like 6 or 7 years before that. So what was that? Like 2008 or 9, I'm writing down what I just told you to share in the book. And I was like, oh, let me ask my mom about some things, to like confirm some things like, was the bedroom up to the right, and was the bathroom up to the left? And do you remember the blue haze? She doesn't remember the blue haze at all. Doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about with the blue haze. But I was telling her the story that I just told you, so she's like, oh my God, I never knew that's something you felt. I was like, why didn't you tell me? I don't know. I don't know why I didn't tell you, but she's like, but I had my own strange experience in that house when I was a kid. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, my mom was staying over there, staying the night. And they had both gone to bed around the same time. And there was this awful, like kind of a nor'easter type of storm, like a huge storm, but it wasn't snow. It was like, cause it was like in the summer, I think. So it was like a big rain thunderstorm. And this woman is lying in her bed, which is that bedroom down and off to the right. The husband, the old woman's husband, he was away on business. So he wasn't there that night. And my mother was staying in a spare bedroom that's just beyond the bathroom. And as they had like just gone to bed, they're still laying down in bed, kind of awake, and the hall light turns on. And my mother calls out like, hey, did you turn on the hall light? And she calls back. She's like, no, but somebody died. And when they died is when the light came on. My mom is like, what? And she's like, yeah, somebody must have died locally. And they're just letting us know that they passed away. Like, who's letting us know? And the woman's like, well, the light will go off in a minute. Don't worry about it. Just go to bed. You're like, everything's fine, and sure enough, like less than a minute later, the light turned off. And the next morning, my mom was doing some chores for her and she had gone into town to get some groceries. And when she came back, she told my mom that somebody in fact did die that night. They were out driving in the storm and they crashed, and it was a young man and he passed away on site. And this woman told my mother that she feels like the light went on when that person passed away. I was like, that's wild, Mom. Thank you for telling me that.
Almost makes it sound like that house might be some type of like liminal space in the means of like everything kind of like, I almost kind of feel like there might be an opportunity where when it comes to like things passing through, there might be like these median points, almost like portals that are in specific spots.
Sure.
And when somebody passes, they have to kind of come to whatever the closest of these spots might potentially be. So if everything flows through that spot, of course, anybody that's hanging around that spot is going to have some means of being aware of it. So if there was that other person at that house, maybe it was one of those things where it's like, if he was trying not to scare you, he flicked on the light like, all right, there's going to be somebody else passing through here for a minute. Just letting you guys know, stay over here, pay attention to the light. He's going to pass through over this way. But kind of a funny side story. Actually, the light thing ended up reminding me of one of my own personal stories that I don't think I've told this on the show in a very long time, but it has to do with my grandpa. And my grandpa, when he passed away back when I was probably around 6 or so this was back in 2005. Actually, no, way earlier than that, actually. That would have been like 2001, 2002, I think it was. But he used to go and he worked in another state because the company he was working for in the Detroit area, they ended up moving to another state, and he was old enough that they were like, all right, you're not going to get laid off. We're going to give you the opportunity that you can come and work over in, I think it was Illinois, or Indiana, that's what it was. It was Indiana. So he used to end up venturing over there every week from Monday until Friday. And every Friday night, he would end up coming home. My grandma would end up going to bed earlier. She had a lot of like neck problems and stuff from getting into like accidents and everything. So they slept in 2 different bedrooms, just mainly so that she didn't get hurt and stuff like that where they were sleeping. But when he would come home, his thing was always he would leave on the hallway light so that she would know that he was home. So if she woke up in the middle of the night, she could wake up, see the light, and she'd know he was home, and then she could go back to bed and know he made it home safe. Well, unfortunately, he ended up passing away one week when he was out there working. And it's still been going on to this day, actually. But specifically right after then, he ended up turning on the lights almost every single night to let us know that he was around, he was watching us, that he's around and keeping a watchful eye out, which kind of goes farther into the story that throughout my life, there's always been these like weird events where I'll need to wake up or I'll need something like, prime example, about 2 years ago or so, I was trying to put a show together to do a show the following day. So I had to make sure I got it done the night before. And I ended up falling asleep halfway through writing the show. And in the middle of the night, the light flicked on right above my eyes and woke me up. And I was like, oh, what time is it? Looked at the clock, realized, I still got to work on the show. And I was like, all right, thanks, Grandpa.
Wow.
So it's been this like ongoing thing that he used to always leave the light on for my grandma so that she would know he was home. And now to this day, he still is around and he turns on the light whenever he needs to make his presence known for whatever reason.
Wow. That's a great story. Come to find out, like I didn't find this out, I think until like this year. But my girlfriend had come over with me to my folks' house. Like we went to my folks' house to visit, and we were talking about this woman. We call her Mimi. She's not like a blood relative, but she was kind of like a grandmother to me and like a mother figure for my mother. So we called her Mimi, and she's like, we were talking about, paranormal things, and I had brought up Mimi again in Mimi's house and how it was kind of strange and stuff. And my mom goes, Mimi used to read tea leaves. I don't think I ever told you that. There might have been like a second sight thing going on with Mimi that she didn't really talk to my mother about very often, but there were signs, where my mother was like, obviously the hall light thing and, reading the tea leaves, and she would read my mother's tea leaves and like tell her things about the future, and I guess she predicted my sister and I,
That might explain the blue haze upstairs. I mean, if she was already linked in,
maybe.
And not to mention, maybe. I was going to bring it up a little bit earlier, but I don't know if this was before or after your UFO experience, but it seems like for whatever reason for you, when you had that experience, it seemed to have like snapped you on where you've kind of stayed on for life, So maybe you were seeing it, your grandma was seeing it, but nobody else was actually seeing it because they weren't tapped in anymore.
Right. Yeah, that's certainly possible because this was after. It was about 3 years later, maybe 2. So, yeah.
And I remember you ended up having a thing with, there was a light or something that shined through, right? So you kind of had the experience with the lights, obviously different because this one's a blue mist, but it seems like these light frequencies definitely have some type of link into these other dimensions or other worlds. So I feel like, again, it was a matter of fact that you were attuned to it, and your grandma was probably attuned to it too, but if she was trying to keep your grandpa a secret, because if she was partially a medium and maybe didn't want to freak you guys out, she was just keeping it to herself and not mentioning it, and if you didn't bring it up, nobody else is saying anything about it.
Right. And she's probably like, you don't scare those kids.
You hide around that corner and you do not scare those kids. I know you want to say hi, but it's going to freak them out.
Absolutely. But yeah, so that's the, being at Mimi's house and, a few strange things happening.
Did you ever end up having anything weird happen with her? Like her sharing any stories or anything with you personally?
No.
Ooh, talk about unfortunate. That was probably a untapped resource right there.
Absolutely, dude. Like I kind of I don't really know what happened when she passed away because I was still, quite young. And so I don't know if she had a journal or something, that might have had some of this information in it. Cause I don't think my mother was privy to her estate afterwards, because we weren't blood relatives, so I'm sure her own family kind of went through the house and stuff. But I have thought about that. I wonder if there was any sort of documentation, that was relevant at all. I don't know, but I regret, not having the wherewithal. Again, I was very young, so I can't be too mad at myself. But yeah, definitely untapped, interesting things. I wish I could have researched more.
Hold on tight, guys. We'll be right back after this brief commercial break. And now back to the show. Dude, that's one of those things that my grandma told me a lot of stories, but obviously we have to get this inspiration from somewhere to really kind of get into this stuff. It's either personal experiences or people telling me these experiences. So kind of the same thing happened with me. My grandma passed away too early. She passed away when I was in 7th grade. So I wasn't really researching or documenting this stuff like that. So it's one of those things that she inspired me to start talking about this stuff, because she used to tell me about Sasquatch and everything, but I never had that opportunity to go back and actually document all of her stories, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's too bad.
And especially that generation too. It's one of those, you can't tell everybody your stories because not everybody wants to hear them, or people are going to think that you're crazy for it. So that whole generation just has so many untapped stories, unfortunately. Dude,
very true. And when you look at MUFON and NUFORC databases, just as a random example, but you might see that there's a lot of posts or a lot of sightings that are going up, but I would say a good 50% of the quote unquote new posts or new reports that are getting posted to those sites are older people, boomers, reporting their old sightings from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they're just now more comfortable to talk about.
The only unfortunate part about that now is that it's 70 years later now, there's no opportunity to actually be able to really even research anything, even MUFON. Yeah. I mean, other than being able to look up other similar cases that may have happened in the same area to see if maybe two people saw the same thing, or maybe kind of bring a broader picture in. But if there was a little flap and a handful of people saw it and they didn't report stuff till 70 years later, oh man, that sucks. You have no opportunity to actually go back and really figure anything out. It's just kind of one of those random stories that kind of just exist, but you can't really find any solid substance to it. So it just ends up becoming almost like a piece of folklore at that point.
Yeah, it really is, and I've had some success trying to correlate that to newspaper articles coming out at the same time, even though it might not be the person in MUFON and NUFORC who reported it, but there is, in the same town, there was, that same week, I have found that it's pretty rare, but I've found maybe 3 instances of it, something like that, which is kind of cool. It's confirming, but still more lost opportunities just because somebody didn't report it. But, that's, people are still nervous now about reporting stuff. So I can only imagine, 40, 50, 60 years ago.
dude, especially the ones 40, 50, 60 years ago where they had like the really one-off type encounters. Like there's a lot of those really, really weird ones from like the 50s or 60s. Like, I mean, Hopkinsville came from that. So it's like stuff like that where you could actually go back there and look for like footprints or some type of like marking on the grass or something like that. Like, it's so unfortunate that with those one-offs, because I don't know, there's something to those one-offs. Like, I don't think they're one-offs. Like, I almost kind of wonder if it's like something else that projects itself and it appears to be a one-off every single time. But I don't know. Right. There's all these like correlating pieces to the one-off encounters that nothing makes sense about them besides these weird little pieces. So yeah, those ones, man, like it's so unfortunate that a bunch of those are just lost in time, because those are some of the most fascinating ones that came from the 50s.
They really are. And I think you and I touched on this, like maybe on the first time I was on, but we talked about the Dover Demon case, you know, and that was a very concentrated, just like 2-night event where 3 teenagers saw this thing, and you know that's all it was. And you know the godfather of cryptozoology, Lauren Coleman, like famously investigated it and coined the term the Dover Demon, and all there ever was these 3 witnesses and these 3 drawings. And you know, so all these years later, because I love the Dover Demon story, I've always, you know, and to me it looked like a gray alien, you know, as opposed to like a cryptid.
Yeah, like a deformed gray or something.
Yeah. And so I was always looking for like a UFO or extraterrestrial connection in some way. And I randomly found it in a book one day. And it was the story of this family that had seen a UFO on the same night of the Dover Demon case in Massachusetts, just one town over. And they saw a UFO and it kind of followed their car, and they saw a little creature like the next night. And you know, after reading the Dover Demon reports, you're like, oh, maybe that's what we saw. You know, this little alien Dover Demon creature is what we saw, you know. But it was cool to finally find a connection or a UFO connection. But again, it felt like a one-off story. And, you know, 30 years later, this other story pops up.
I mean, I think I was joking about this last time with the fact of it being a deformed extraterrestrial, but all jokes aside, I mean, if they are doing some type of like genetic splicing or genetic mutilation or like manipulation, absolutely, because clearly like they don't have reproductive organs, like they're doing something, I feel like it's bound to happen once in a while that there might be some type of like error in the genetic code, and they have to just like get rid of the thing possibly. So this might be a lot more prevalent of a thing, but the difference is maybe they normally don't last that long, you know, like if it ends up coming out and it's not genetically what it's supposed to be, it might be like they drop it off at a planet, it just kind of like dies and disintegrates, you know, because I mean, even with these grays, it seems like their flesh components are different than ours. So when they die, I mean, within a day or two, they might just turn into a goo. So, you know, they might just be dropping off the ones that genetically don't work here and there. And this was one of the only cases where somebody actually saw one of these things, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, maybe, you know, the aliens didn't know, but this one in particular, like thrived on Earth for whatever reason, you know, or maybe it was a hybrid and there was more human genes as opposed to, you know, like who knows, you know. But
it was deformed because it walked on 4 legs, but it actually works on Earth, you know, if you're actually trying to hunt and look for food and everything. So they're like, yeah, walking on 4 legs ain't going to work on the spaceship, but man, if you can make it on Earth, you might as well try, right?
I got another story from my childhood, but we're fast forwarding and like moving to me being in high school. Okay. There was a very abrupt transition. I'm so sorry, people listening. That's awesome. So I'm in high school. I'm probably 16 or so. And my dad was actually a teacher at the high school that I went to. He was a French teacher. I never took French, actually. My sister took 4 years, but I never took a French class with him. But I'm out of school, like, you know, it's like after school, and I came home and we were kind of like latchkey kids a little bit. You know, my parents worked for a few hours afterwards. Like, even though school got done at a certain time, the teacher isn't home like right when school gets out, you know. And on this particular day, my dad had to drive to a different town to go get a fluorescent light bulb. There was one out down in our basement. So it's probably 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, and my dad calls and he's like, hey, can you go down in the basement and measure this light bulb for me? because I need to know what size to get. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So I kept him on the phone with me while I went into the basement, and I measured the thing and told him, and he's like, okay, thanks. And he's like, don't forget to shut off the light and lock the door, because we didn't like our cats going down there. They would eat insulation and stuff.
And cats in the basement is always a pain in the ass anyways, because you got some cats, man, they'll go down there and you'll never see them again.
I know, there's so many nooks and crannies. So I get done doing that, and I come upstairs, and I lock the door, shut off the light, and I go back up to my room, and I'm playing music and just hanging out. And like an hour later or so, there's a knock on my bedroom door. And I look at the time, and I'm like, oh, it's got to be my sister. So I open the door, and she's like, hey, what the hell are you doing? Like, she's mad at me, and I'm like, what? I'm just up here chilling, And she's like, I just had to chase the cats out of the basement. And I had to, and you left the light on, the door was wide open, and I just had to chase the cats out. Like, what the hell? And I'm like, shut up. You didn't have to do any of that. Like, what are you talking about? Like, we ended up fighting for a little bit. And then I'm just like, whatever. And I closed the door in her face, because you know how teenagers are. I feel so bad about it still. But anyway, about an hour after that, maybe even longer, there's like a louder knock on my door. And I'm like, oh no, what is that? So I open up the door, and it's my dad. And he's mad. And he starts yelling at me, and he's like, I just had to chase the cats out of the basement. I told you to lock that door, to close it and lock it.
Like a second time?
I did. Yeah. And I'm like, I did. Like, what are you talking about? And my sister can hear my dad yelling at me, and she comes out of her room, and she's like, Dad, the door was open when I got home, and I closed the door and chased the cats out and closed the door and turned off the light, And we all three of us just stood there staring at each other like, what? What happened? Because I closed it. My sister gets home and it's open. She closes it. My dad gets home and the door's open. I don't know. We just looked at each other, and it was strange, and we didn't know what to say, and we didn't talk about it anymore. And that's really it. I don't know what the hell happened, but that's kind of this one-off event. Now, some other things have happened in this house, but
you already knew that was going to be my next question, was what else has happened in this house other than, of course, your extraterrestrial experience,
Right.
I'm assuming that's the same house, right?
It's actually not. No, these are, it's a different town. So different house, but some other things have happened here where, I'll see a shadow. I used to see like shadows of cats, and all cats would be accounted for, but then I would see a shadow of one like run up the stairs or one in the kitchen or something. I always thought that was strange. And I think I knew in my mind, because again, I was young, I lived here until I was like 18 or something, at that house. And I think I knew in the back of my mind, oh, that's a ghost cat. Like I would call it that in my head, but I just wouldn't talk about it. And I don't know if I was nervous too, or if I didn't think people would believe me, because it's kind of weird. I would beg my mom to tell me ghost stories, when I was young. So it's not like, she was very open-minded to it, so I don't know why I wouldn't talk about it. I also saw this weird figure. It looked like about the size of a toddler, maybe, like a 3-year-old. And it was standing by a window. But I saw it at night. So I was seeing like a shadow in a dark room. And I had walked past this bedroom, and I saw the shadow standing by a window. And I was like, huh? What? And so I backed up and turned on the light, and there was nothing there, and I was like, oh, I guess my mind's playing tricks on me or something. But I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure there was like a ghost kid standing in the house. Like, I don't know. And I never told anybody about it. I told my girlfriend about it like 3 years ago. It might've been the first time I talked about it.
It was just like it wasn't like a buildup, right? It was just kind of like random things kind of here and there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It almost kind of
Yeah,
seems a
exactly.
little bit more like trickster-like, especially if like you one see a cat and then you see almost something that's like a short person or almost like an imp, and then you have this thing that keeps letting the cats out of the basement and flicking the lights on and trying to purposely get you in trouble. Apparently, like it sounds a bit more trickster-like. Like I don't know what the
That's
history of this house
interesting.
is. I don't know if maybe they built this house somewhere where they would have pissed off some spirit having built the house there, but yeah, I don't know. I
see
kind of
that.
see a little bit more trickster-like than anything.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of like elemental sprite type thing, but it could be, like I don't know. I mean, maybe even Pukwudgie-esque, who knows? I don't know.
Was this in Maine?
Yeah,
And you guys have like Pukwudgie stories and stuff that pop up in Maine, if I'm not
absolutely.
mistaken, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, that might be a perfect example right there. I mean, especially if this place had a basement, I feel like that's one of those things that basements in general, everybody always gets that creepy vibe from it, but you can never quite understand why, even if it's not a haunted basement. I think it might have something to do with the materials that's in the dirt itself, that it possibly like holds things, or that it has just some type of like dense, heavy like frequency to like the dirt and the minerals that are there themselves. So if that is the case, I mean, what not a perfect place for a trickster or some type of elemental to hang out than this area where it's basically giving off its frequency or its ambiance or whatever it kind of happens to want to exist in. And also, I mean, who knows what else that might even retain, which will kind of bring in some of the paranormal aspect to this, especially in basements. It's kind of like a matter of, try to make like a box where you kind of have, a little bit of each of it on each side of it. Whatever is existing in that middle, of course, is going to end up being like a hotspot. So, I mean, that might be why you kind of having more paranormal activity in the basement than anywhere else, is because it's almost like a built-up spot with all this material around it. Almost kind of like a cave, for example, because caves are always haunted too.
You just unlocked a memory.
Perfect.
Before we moved into the house, but after my parents bought it, I caught wind of something happening in the basement that my parents were talking about. And I think we were like on the car ride over. We had like a car, like the trunk. And I remember some boxes being in the back seat next to me, and we were bringing them over to the house. Of course, we were going to rent like a U-Haul or something, to bring like all the big stuff. But we were like passively like bringing over boxes every once in a while. And I remember my mom and dad talking, and my mom was like, well, how am I going to feel safe there? We're not even moved in. And there's something in the basement, and I remember being like, what do you mean there's something in the basement? And them like trying not to scare me, and like, no, everything's fine. There's nothing in the basement. There's just a thing that happened in the basement. And I'm like, well, what happened in the basement? And they wouldn't tell me. So I think I was finally in high school. I'm like, and I'm talking to my sister. I'm like, do you know what happened in the basement? Like before we moved in, And she's like, I kind of remember that. It was something about like, there was something with the drain, and dad had come to the house to like look at a couple things, or maybe he came with like the inspector or something. And when they went down to the basement, there was somebody down in the basement, and they were trying to pull stuff out of the drain.
Oh, what?
Yeah. And the way my sister told it almost implied that the person kind of vanished as opposed to like run out of the house, because like the cops weren't called. It was really strange. So I remember asking my folks about it after my sister told me that. And my dad was like, oh yeah. There was something wrong with the drain, and I think we just had a guy coming over like and fixing it or something, And I remember not believing him. I was like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, are you sure there wasn't like somebody pulling something like out of the drain, and then they saw you and then like ran out or like just like disappeared or something? He's like, no, nobody was pulling anything out of the drain. I'm like, okay. And I asked my mom about it, and she was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, okay. So, maybe I should ask him about it now. I don't know.
Yeah, they might actually answer now that you write weird books about weird things. I mean,
Yeah.
that almost kind of seems like it may have been something like residual, which almost kind of perfectly goes into what I was saying, that, you know, if you do have this basement, that's this area that's below ground, it seems like it would kind of trap residual things more so than other areas would, because you have mineral buildup all the way around the outside. So, I mean, continuing on, it's funny. A bunch of your stories remind me of some of my stories as a kid. I know I've told like the full long story about this house a few times on the show, but when we first moved into like the weird house I lived in when I was a teenager, there was a whole thing with the basement too. We ended up going in the basement, and there was a bunch of like Bible pages like torn out and scattered all over the basement. And whoever took off out of this house, because we got it foreclosed and we didn't really have much information about it. And my mom's boyfriend at the time like would, you know, flip houses and fix them all up and everything like that. The person tried to flood out the house. Like, they turned on every single faucet. They tried to flood out the basement and everything, left all the Bible pages torn out in the basement. You know, they were like, oh, nothing weird about it at all. Drain all the water out and everything. And there's a lot more that ends up going in with this story. But one of the weird things that would happen in this basement, and my stepbrother and I would both swear by this, because we would do like tests on this, where one of us would go upstairs and the other one would stay in the basement, and then we'd flip vice versa. When you're in the basement by yourself, you'd hear what sounded like somebody screaming, like bloody murder, like somebody's getting tortured, but like off out in the distance. So we would do this test thinking that like, oh yeah, maybe it's somebody outside, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And we would alternate it. When you'd go upstairs, you wouldn't hear anything. And when you come back downstairs, you'd always hear it, but it would sound like it was like way off in the distance. And yeah, this house was just weird, man. Like, this is one of those houses too that we had the upstairs bathroom. There was the shower that was in the back, and we had the big long mirror across the front. So when you're looking in the mirror, you'd see into the shower, and it was not an uncommon occurrence that a lot of the time you go in there at night to go to the bathroom, you know, go to wash your hands and look up, and you'd see dark shadows standing in the shower behind you. But then when you kind of like, you know, double check and look back, it would just be gone. Like, this house had a lot of weirdness to it, man, but all started from the basement, like you were kind of saying. Wow.
That's really cool. And I do want to hear more about that, about the house. So you should sprinkle some more stories in. But yeah, that's crazy. You unlocked that memory. I hadn't thought about the drain thing, because I remember that visual being in my head, and like somebody pulling something out of the drain. Like, what are you pulling out of the drain? You know what I mean? Like, where you're knelt over it. And this is like a drain, like in the middle of the basement, you know? So like the floor drain, for like if it floods or something, you know? So we're talking that it's a pretty big drain. And I was just picturing like body parts or like clothing or something, you know, that somebody's pulling out, and my father going down there and surprising this thing, you know, and it looks up at him and, you know, runs or disappears, you know.
I'm sure you'd be aware if there was a serial killer or something like that lived in that house, but I mean, it doesn't seem like it'd be far off that if you're going to like collect trophies or something like that, for example, like if you collected rings or something like that, well, not a perfect place to hide them then, to tie like a string to like a drain top and then put it down the drain. Like, the police would never find that thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but that was the first thing I thought of, was like a serial killer hiding his trophies and like pulling something back up out of the drain personally.
Yeah, that's crazy. But, you know, my sister was insistent that it vanished, like in front of their eyes type of thing. Like, they surprised it. It was like, oh, and then like dematerialized, you know. It was kind of like how she was, I guess, implying it. I should ask her about it too. That's crazy. Memory unlocked, man.
See, I would almost feel like she may have been like messing with you, but when your dad is this is what actually happened, and then your mom's like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, and she seemed like she was like horrified about it. To me, it seems like there's a real story there. Your dad's lying about it, your mom doesn't want to talk about it, and your sister may be telling the truth, or she may be messing with you, but it's hard to tell because of the other two's reactions.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, I got to talk to the fam and see what's going on.
Well, now we know something we can at least touch up on the next round, because as always, there is going to be some round at some point, maybe next couple months, but Inquiries of Our Reality will be right back after this brief commercial break, so stay tuned. And now back to the show.
What else I got here? I was recently on the television show Expedition X on Discovery Plus, and it's probably on Discovery too. And this episode, I was contacted earlier this year, I think back in May, something like that. No, that's when the taping happened. So they contacted me like back in March or something. And it was producers from the show. And they're like, hey, we got your name from so-and-so and we looked you up online. We saw your books, and they even claimed to like that one of them like bought one of them, to read some of my stories and stuff. So I thought that was cool. Like we were doing an episode where the team is going to come to Bangor, Maine, and investigate Stephen King legends, like where he got inspired to write a lot of his stories. Well, I live in Stephen King country, and I definitely got stories for days. And I was like, well, I got some stories for you guys. And, but I was like, I have one of my own. So I ended up like doing this whole document for them. And we did a Zoom call with me and all the producers. And I ended up telling them like 3 or 4 or 5, maybe even like 6 stories. And then I had this document that had even more stories on it that I sent over to them. And I was like, and we were like kind of getting off the call. And I was like, I have one more story, like a thing that happened to me. And they're like, oh, okay, well, what's that? And I told them the story. And they were like, I think that's the one. And I'm like, the one? They're like, yeah, that if we have you come on the show, that's the story I think you should tell. And they're like, we got to tell you something. And it related to my story. So anyways, the show happens and we go to this taping, and it's kind of like a town hall thing, and there's all these members of the Bangor community, and I know some of them, which is kind of cool that we all got to like be on the show. And when the show came out, I couldn't watch it, but my girlfriend watched it and like, they cut your story. And I'm like, well, I figured they might, because there were some really good stories. And there was a little kid who told this really like great haunting story. And he, he's a little kid and he spoke really well, that I knew like that was going to like take up the majority of the stuff. And, and I was like, it's okay. I don't mind getting cut for this kid,
Still sad and unfortunate though, to be all excited that you're going to pop up in a Discovery Channel show and then you get pulled from it, man. Give it to the kid, of course, but it still sucks.
Yeah. But my girlfriend and I are in the background, which is kind of fun, so anyway.
At least you can do the point at. You can make people watch the show and be like, hey, look, there's me.
Hey. So the story that happened to me, this was like 15, 20 years ago, but it happened at the Bangor Standpipe. And if you know anything about Stephen King, the Standpipe is a huge part of the story It. And it's featured heavily in the book, and it's featured heavily in the movies, where they even recreate them. And now in It, Welcome to Derry, like there's a lot of scenes that take place on the Standpipe, and the way they recreated it with either CGI, or I'm sure they actually like came to town and got a bunch of shots of it and stuff, but they recreated it perfectly. And so it's really cool to see the Standpipe. And I have a story from being at the Standpipe, and this is the story that I shared on the show that got cut. So I'm at the Standpipe, and it's kind of like a park area, and there's this bench, but the Standpipe is this, I don't remember how many gallons, like 36,000 gallons of water. Oh, you still there?
Yeah, is this it?
Yeah, that's it. That's it right there.
I know we don't have the video going, but I want to make sure I had a visual personally.
Sure. So the one with the kid, that's from the movie It, and the one that's right before it is the actual Standpipe.
This one right here?
So they did a great job recreating it, So
you can still see me, by the way, right?
Oh yeah, there you are.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure you were having issues. Okay, perfect.
So anyways, I'm this Standpipe it holds like like 36,000 or like 50,000 gallons of water. It's for the town water, and it's also connected to like this park, and there's this bench there, and it's a part of history that Stephen King would go there, sit on this bench and write a lot of his stories before he became famous. And like there's even like a little plaque on the bench and stuff. And so I was there after dark. I was probably there like around 11 or 12 o'clock at night, and I was by myself. And you're not supposed to be at the Standpipe after sunset. Like there's a sign and all that good stuff. But, 15, 20 years ago, I didn't care.
It's just a sign. It don't mean nothing.
Yeah. I'm a 20 something, I'm tough. It's all good. And so I backed into a parking space at the standpipe, and my headlights were facing the standpipe. And it was actually on either side of the main door to the standpipe. So I could see the door really well, and my headlights were kind of putting the door, or had the door right in the middle of the headlights. So I'm sitting there, and I'm just kind of chilling, and realistically, I'm probably smoking, smoking a little something, and I'm sitting there chilling, and I can feel like somebody watching me to my left, out the driver's side window. So I look, and I see this weird, janky looking, really skinny humanoid walk out of the darkness, and it was walking all like jittery, like janky,
like the nurses from like Silent Hill almost. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Exactly, dude. And it walks into my headlights, and it puts its back up against the door as if the lights are hurting it, because it's up like this, and just like kind of looking around with its like back against this door, and my headlights are right on it. And I'm like, what is happening? What am I seeing right now? And I started to feel like I was being watched again. So I looked over to my left, because I'm like, oh no, are there more of these things? So I looked to my left, and there's no more. God, I'm getting goosebumps now telling it. But there's no more figures. I don't see any figures. So I look back to the standpipe door, and the figure's gone. And I'm like, what the hell did I just see? And that's basically the story. Like I left after that, like I was freaked out. And so I tell this story to the producers of Expedition X, and they're like, yeah, I think that's the story. And they go, we need to tell you something. And I'm like, what? And they're like, we found a death that happened at the standpipe. They're like, how tall do you think the figure is that you saw? And I was like, 5 feet, maybe something like that. They're like, okay, well, in 19 whatever, this kid was at the top of the standpipe, and he fell down the standpipe, like in between the walls, and died and broke almost every bone in its body. And there's some rumors that it might have been his father who like pushed him, so there's rumors that it was a homicide, but I think it went down as an accident. But it's, it's a thing you can look up and find, a report of, in that this, like 13, 14-year-old kid died and falling in between the windows, in between the walls, and, broke, the majority of the bones in his body. And the creators, the producers of the show, are like, was the janky thing you saw like the ghost of the kid, and that's how it walked now because of its bones being broken? And I was like, oh my God, maybe. Maybe, and I was like, man, my story's definitely getting on the air. I'm like, that's crazy. And but yeah,
the scarier part would be if he didn't die instantly and he fell down and broke every bone in his body, and then he died, because then it would make sense that his form in the afterlife would be that of what he was right before he died, especially if it was that traumatic of a death. And add in the fact if his father had anything to do with it, that's one of those ones that it's like he's still got business, he got something to figure out, like super traumatic and instantaneous, like.
I can see that he might have been alive anywhere from, a couple of minutes to maybe a couple of hours. Who knows,
There's what was the name of that weird caving spot where it ends up going like straight down, and there was this story about this guy who tried to climb into that and ended up straight down, and they had to try to get him out, and they spent, what was it, like 18 hours or something trying to get him out, and he eventually ended up passing away from being upside down, but
Such a sad story.
Yeah, same with that kid. I assume that was probably somewhat of the same situation. You're face down in a spot that you can't move, that's fine and constricted, and you're basically just slowly passing out from all the blood rushing to your body. Like, what not an awful way to go. Not to mention if he had every bone in his body broken on top of it. Just feel like a upside down heavy sack. Like, man, that sounds awful.
That's rough, dude. That's rough.
Talk about a traumatic death, man. If anything was going to lead to a ghost, like that sounds like it might be it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But craziness, dude. Craziness.
Did that other kid who ended up having his story put in place instead of yours, was his kind of relating to this kid or something too?
No, he wasn't. It was, a ghost story from a local opera house, which is like where they put on plays. There's a team of people that put on plays. Every season, around Halloween, they usually do a scary one. There's always a Christmas one, and there's some stuff they do during the summer, which is always cool. It's a beautiful historic place, built forever ago, and it burned down in the major fire, just like every place had the big fire of 19 whatever, and this place burned down. And there's an amazing picture that some people took on a paranormal investigation that looks like a firefighter, like just standing there, but it was a pitch black room at like 1 a.m, but there was like this silhouette of like a firefighter, because you can kind of tell with like the hat and the coat and stuff. It was really cool, and I think they showed the picture on the episode. But the kid is an actor and works at that place. Obviously he's in school and stuff, but he's a kid actor that is in some plays with the people there, and he had an interaction with, he thinks, a spirit that like kind of tapped him on the shoulder while he was backstage. And this area backstage is known for, like trickster type stuff, kind of like what you're talking about earlier. So, but he was just so well spoken. It was such an interesting story, that it made a lot of sense. And
child actor, that's a huge benefit. That's probably why he was able to tell his story. Cause I'm sure, you've probably documented enough kids' stories in a book. Like, it's really, really hard sometimes. It's just like a run-on sentence.
It really is. Like, kids that I've interviewed, I'm just looking at the parents. I'm like, can you translate what the hell they just said to me?
It's all just one sentence, the entire story. Well, I was kind of hoping that maybe he had another story at that water tower, maybe even seeing some other thing that looked just like what you saw. But I don't know, man. I feel like that story, man, was fascinating. If I were you, man, especially considering that that's in an area that's somewhat close to you, I'm kind of curious if anybody else has had any experiences seeing that, or, if not, I would definitely start investigating it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I've put some feelers out there, and, there's some follow-up things that I have to do. So hopefully I'll get some more info, and then it'll appear in a book somewhere, or I'll tell you about it on a podcast at some point. But we'll see what happens.
I'm sure we'll end up coming back around to it on a show at some point. And I guess, speaking of that, man, before we completely run out of time, because I know that you said you were tired, you woke up early this morning, so I don't want to keep you too long. But last time, we ended up getting into a story where you were talking about these like insectoid things that you wrote about in the book, and that you had this connection where there was the young kid that saw him, and then later on there was this other guy that worked at a garage that ended up seeing him. But initially what I wanted to get into on this episode, but of course, your stories were way more fascinating, so maybe we can hit it on the next episode. So it gives us another excuse of something to talk about. But
for sure, dude.
These one-off bizarre humanoids that you got covered in the book. Maybe we can lead into it for next time, but if you got time today, man, I'd like to at least touch base on one of them, because I heard you, or it was Mysterious Universe. They ended up actually covering your book, and they covered a lot of stories that, as many times as we've chatted, I haven't actually heard. So it kind of also inspired me, not only from last time you were on, but hearing that I want to take the opportunity at some point to dive into these one-off weird encounters. Yeah.
There's quite a few of them, and you never know what to make of them. We touched on Dover Demon earlier, and these one-off stories maybe aren't always one-off. Like, why did we get a glimpse of them? I don't know, but there's this really strange one-off story that I can't even verify, but it's a fascinating story. It takes place in southern Maine, and it's actually pretty modern. I think that, don't hold me to this, but I think the date is like 2019. And there's like a Hampton Inn or something like that. I can't remember the actual hotel now. I don't have my notes in front of me. I'm so sorry. But there's this like hotel chain down in southern Maine, and they have like an event center in their basement. And the event center is like a lot of business meetings happen there. And, but also like, especially on the weekends, they don't want to miss out on a payday. So they'll host like family reunions and like kids' birthday parties. And that space gets used for a lot of different things. And these parents had rented out the space to have a birthday party for their kid one year. I can't remember how old he was, but they were kind of young. I think it was like 7, 8, 9-ish time frame. And they invited, the whole class. And, there was cake and a bunch of food, and parents were encouraged to hang out because there were like a lot of games you could play with the kids and stuff. And they even hired a clown. And the clown was going around, and people loved the clown, and he was entertaining them all. And about halfway through this birthday party, he had gone to the bathroom and caught a glimpse of how he looked. And he's like, oh, I got to go upstairs and like touch up my makeup and stuff. And so it's unknown, but he had a room on the 3rd floor, but it's unknown if it was like his room and he like rented it out for the night, or maybe it was just a staging area that the parents, had rented for the day or whatever, so he could like change and stuff. But he goes up to the 3rd floor of like this Hampton Inn. I think it was a Hampton Inn and Suites, I think is the name of it. But and so he's up there in the bathroom, making sure his clown makeup looks okay, takes a little break, and gets done, leaves the room, gets into the hallway, walks to the elevator, and hits the button. And he's waiting for the elevator, and then ding, the door opens. And he's like, whatever. And he just walks in. Problem was, the doors opened, but there was no elevator. And he fell 3 stories to his death. And they had to like shut down the hotel, the party, everybody had to go home. And, this guy died at this Hampton Inn and Suites, purely by accident, and I don't know if it was a faulty elevator. There's not a whole lot of info. What I do know is like you fast forward a couple of years, I think it was like 2021 maybe. And this woman from Massachusetts came up to southern Maine, and it was during the summer, and she rented this room on the 3rd floor. And the first night there, she had fun. She was visiting friends and comes back to the hotel room. Everything's cool. The next night, kind of same deal. Had a great day. She's coming home. I think she's there for like the week. And she gets up in the middle of the night because she's got to use the bathroom. So she gets up, shuffles to the bathroom, turns on the bathroom light. And as soon as she did that, like you walk in the room and the mirror's right there, she said there was a clown face in the mirror, and that its lips were smeared and its face looked a little distorted, a little shifted, if you will. But she saw it for a brief second, screamed, and ran out of the bathroom. She went into her bed and like, what am I doing? So she called the front office and started screaming like, there's somebody in my bathroom, get security up here, blah, blah, blah. So security comes and knocks on the door, and she lets them in, and they go and look in the bathroom. She explained what happened, and they go and look, and there's nobody in the bathroom. It's a hotel room. There's no place to hide, and all that good stuff. So they're like, we're so sorry. Maybe they snuck out. I don't know. But they weren't giving her a good answer. So she goes down to the front desk and demands a refund. And they talked about like giving her another room and stuff. She's like, no. So she gets a refund, or demanded a refund, and who knows when she got it. And then she packed up and left that night and drove back to Massachusetts. And she was so disturbed by it that she made a YouTube video about it. I guess she had like this page where she would post, kind of random things, but she has this YouTube, or at the time had this YouTube channel, and like told the story, basically what I told you, and actually drew what the clown looked like and like held it up to the camera. So I found the story, and I found it 3rd party, and tried as I might, I could not find the YouTube channel. I was hoping I could, but I could not find the YouTube channel. So I did some further research, and I could not find anywhere that a death occurred, an accidental death occurred at a Hampton Inn and Suites, ever in Maine. So couldn't find any police reports, couldn't find anything, on the internet and news reports or anything. So I can't confirm any of it, but it's a weird, random one-off story that I'm not even sure happened. And if this is made up, well, good on you, because it's a good story,
I mean, if not, though, that's definitely a perfect paranormal one-off to be able to kind of continue on with what we end up talking about today. But just like the story you kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, if he had that misconstrued face, if the story is true, I don't know how he landed, but again,
right.
You're alive for that second before impact, and as soon as he impacts, what she could have seen is possibly like the way his face was contorted. I'm assuming if you walked in, he probably went face first down and probably landed on his face first, but... Oh, right. And add the clown makeup on top of it, man. That's just horrifying.
Right. Rough way to go. And whoever finds that body, like, my goodness, I'm sure that would be a strange sight, And, it's not like a hotel would want this publicized. And, is that a big enough story to, like, man falls to death, clown falls to death? And I would kind of think so. For at least local news. So it's too bad that I couldn't find anything. But
depending on what chain it was too. If it's one of the ones that are part of a way bigger chain, they might even have the money to possibly be like, all right, we're not going to report the story. We're just going to keep it hush hush, because if they're just trying to run like a family hotel, not a hotel that's trying to make money off of people investigating something that's haunted, then that's one of the last things you'd want people to know about happening at your hotel. So. For me, at least, it doesn't seem like it would be far off for a hotel to just completely, like, the people that knew, but then after that, just let it fall into obscurity,
Yeah.
At that point, it's almost like it'd be hard to look into the death records, but the only way you'd really be able to tell maybe is from police reports or like death records. But the hard part would be searching it, like, man in clown makeup. Like, if you don't know this guy's name, like, how exactly would you look that up, Because I don't even know if there would even be a reference to there being clown makeup, for example.
I know, right? Like I wouldn't think so. Like in a regular professional police report. Like, I'm sure it's the man and maybe described and probably the name and stuff, but you don't often see like, oh, they were wearing this and this and this and this, unless they're missing, of course. But that wouldn't be the case in a report like this. But yeah, and something. I think this might have been like 2022. But it turns out I've actually been to that hotel, and I had actually used a bathroom there. And the bathroom was in the basement, which is crazy to me, where the event center is, so I quite possibly, if the story is true, used the same bathroom as the clown, like on little breaks, because he's not going to like run up 3 flights of stairs or, take the elevator up every time he's got to pee. He just used the one, downstairs near the event center. But I had visited Southern Maine, and it was like a long day of like, I had done some interviews and was doing a few things, and I hadn't eaten and I hadn't gone to the bathroom, and I was heading to get some food. And I'm like, oh, I'll just pee when I get to this place where I want to get food. And I had held it for as long as I could, and I'm on the road, and I'm like, oh man, this is a perfect spot. And it was a hotel, because there's usually just a bathroom right in the lobby. I'm like, no big deal. I walk in like it's no big deal.
I'm paying for a room here.
So I pull in, and I'm like, where's the bathroom? And they're like, oh, well, this one's actually being worked on, but you can use the one that's right downstairs. It was literally just like a, like 5-step thing that you go down, and you just go around the corner and boom, it's right there. And I could see the event center. I think there was a gym, and you could smell like the pool stuff, so I think there was a pool down there. And, I used the bathroom and then left. And it wasn't until, a few years later, like just last year, when I found this clown story. And I'm like, oh my God, I've used that bathroom. That's crazy.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't use the elevator then, I guess, right?
Yeah. But I kind of wish it was flip flopped, and I actually stopped in there to like ask the employees, like, "Hey," and I think literally I haven't been down there since. But it'd been cool if I knew the story before I had gone there.
I mean, that would be one of the ways you might be able to actually check into it, because even if the hotel is trying to keep it quiet, you talk to the right employee and you might actually get some answers. I'm not saying like go up to the person at the front desk, but if you see like a janitor that looks like he's been there for a while, that might be the guy to go up and talk to, and you might actually get something out of him.
Yeah, for sure. A chambermaid, maybe. A little long in the tooth. Okay, maybe you've been here for a while.
Just don't ask one of the people that's supposed to be doing hospitality, because they probably will not answer.
Deny. But I literally haven't been in that area since, I don't think. But since I had gone to the bathroom there. But I'm glad I know the story now. And when I get down there, you best bet I'm stopping in.
Oh, yeah. You'll have to give me an update on that one, too, next time we chat. And just to make a quick reference to this one, too, talk about what not the worst way to go while you're wearing full clown makeup. Like,
God, I know.
It's like that scene from Billy Madison where the clown falls over and he gets a hemorrhage and stuff, but it's like nobody takes it seriously because it's a clown. It's one of those things that it's just like this guy falls down the elevator, people open up the door and they're like, is it a joke? Is he going to move?
Right?
Is this guy okay?
That's awful. But yeah, it's funny though. And because this isn't like a big hotel, because I think it only has 3 floors, and that's still a long drop, and I'm sure you would die or at least severely hurt yourself. So who knows how long he was alive, because I feel like it's just short enough to potentially survive for a little bit,
I feel like he came first. Like, if you're just walking in without actually looking, my best guess is that he ended up going head down and just straight down. And hopefully, best case scenario, not that there is a good scenario, but head first means that he probably didn't feel too much, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Even if he was alive for a few minutes, I mean, best chances are maybe you're paralyzed for that last couple seconds, so.
Yeah, but interesting story, and I could never just find anything surrounding it, not even the YouTube channel. And I think I searched longer for the YouTube channel than I did for police reports, and I spent a long time looking for police reports on this thing. But I thought for sure, doing some sort of combination of search terms, that I'd be able to find it, and just nothing.
I mean, who knows if that channel's even up anymore, too, because, YouTube channels, TikTok channels, all that stuff, people have something up for a year, take it down, and not want to deal with it anymore. So, you might be searching for something that's just not there, unfortunately.
They come and go, yeah. I was even on, Wayback Machine, just, trying anything to find something, but I couldn't.
When you're not looking for it, that's when somebody's going to send you that link. So to that actually being said, if there's any listeners out there that know exactly what this video is, you know how to find it, you have access to it. Once we get to all the links and everything for Nomar, make sure you guys send him that link so we can do some further investigations into this one, or at least send them to me so I can pass them on to Nomar.
Yeah, heck yeah. And if you happen to work, in the Southern Maine area in around 2019 at this hotel, let us know. Do you know anything?
Yeah, give us the face-to-face interaction of what exactly happened if the police showed up and all that. Yeah. Hold on tight, guys. This is our last break, so stay tuned. And we are back to the show. So let's hop right in. Well, man, I guess kind of starting to wrap up towards the end. And as I said, next time, man, we'll definitely have to get into a lot more of these one-off encounters and stuff, of course. But if you have some personal stories, of course, we got to get into those first, and we can save this one for the back burner. But before we completely wrap up, as usual, man, I got to do some words of wisdom. So if there was any words of wisdom you might want to bestow on the listeners today, man, for the, what is it now, the 5th time? What might it be, man?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think before I've said kindness, things like that, positive things. And of course I want to end on something positive, and it's tolerance, have tolerance for people. I really need to work on it myself, because I'm not a people person. I don't like being out in the public, I hate grocery shopping, stuff like that. And I need to be more tolerant, but that can also expand to what's dividing our nation, and tolerance of one another. I mean, if there's some things you can't overlook, if somebody's being disrespectful, or, somebody, doesn't believe in humanity because they think some people shouldn't have certain rights, which is insane to me. Okay, you don't need toxic people in your life, but to have some tolerance. I think this is like an internal thing for us, like to have tolerance, especially where the service industry, stores, restaurants, fast food places, like, don't take it out on these people that are on the front lines. Be mad at corporations, be mad at hate, and bigotry, be mad at all that stuff, but don't take it out on people on the front line. So tolerance, I think, is what I'm saying tonight.
Especially not the people that work with your food, because that's a bad choice no matter what the topic is. Don't be rude to the people that are touching your food. But
yeah, you're just dumb at that point. But yeah.
I mean, tolerance in general, man. This is something that it seems like it's kind of being talked about a little bit of everywhere, but it is a really good, solid point that we've gotten to a point in our society where people can't have an educated discussion anymore. Like, our foundation of how a democracy, how society functions, is if people have two opposing opinions, you're able to sit down, have a debate about it, and come to the best possible conclusion. But we've broken apart so far as a society where even within groups, those groups have even been fractured where, whether you're left, you're right, you're this, you're that, like even within those groups, people can't get along. Yeah. And the intention is that you just keep fracturing people till it gets to a point where nobody gets along. But, we can't let the powers that be win. We got to actually sit down, have conversations with each other, realize that there's a lot more that we have in common than we don't have in common, and actually reconnect as a community again, because there's just too much division in the world, man. It's a good message.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I completely agree with what you're saying right there. Yeah. And I'm kind of, like everyone, I'm exhausted with it all. And, I know the world isn't perfect, but I'd love to go back to something like, I don't know, just something seems off, maybe, I don't know if you've heard of this 3-eye atlas and this R2 swan stuff where they're like flanking the earth. Are we getting flanked right now? And are they going to take care of us? Maybe. I don't know.
This sounds kind of messed up, but society's gotten so bad that, whether it's a alien invasion, alien apocalypse, hopefully not an apocalypse, but it's almost gotten to the point where, as messed up as it sounds, like society needs something to have an opportunity to like revamp and restart itself. I'm not saying like mass destruction or anything like that, but like some drastic change has to happen where we have the opportunity to actually like recalibrate society again,
Yeah. And, my bleeding heart would want something like wholesome or something like amazing to happen that kind of unites us, as opposed to like this awful thing.
We're going to get Project Bluebeam, where it's not even the aliens in the first place. We've been hearing about this for years, that the only way everybody will ever unite is over an alien invasion. So they've been saying it, man. They're going to scare us into it.
Very well might be. We shall see, man. But yeah, tolerance and also kindness, all that good stuff.
And speaking of kindness, if anybody wanted to possibly get a copy of your book, maybe even pass along that story, filling in some gaps with the whole clown in the hotel, or if anybody wanted to check out your podcast or even contact you to maybe even share some of their personal stories, where can everybody find all of the fascinating stuff you're doing across the internet, man?
Sure. Yeah, if you just do a Google search for Nomar Slevik, my name's so unique, all my stuff's going to come up. But to give you an actual website, allmylinks.com/Slevik. That'll take you to everything that I have worked on and that I'm currently working on. So it's got books, documentaries, podcast stuff. So that's the best place to go to get all your things. But I will say I am running a sale on my latest book right now on Amazon only. And the print copy of the book is $14.99 and the Kindle copy is $4.99. So that's 25% off and 50% off of what those normally are. And that's running actually to the end of the year. So you go to Amazon and you type in my name, Nomar Slevik, all my books are going to come up, and Humanoid Encounters is the one that's on sale. But I have also got UFOs over Maine. There's Otherworldly Encounters, UFOs over Maine military bases. All those are up there as well that you can get if you want. But Humanoid Encounters is the one specifically on sale.
Highly recommend Humanoid Encounters for anybody out there. It's one of those books that, for me at least, of course you read through encounter stories, but it's one of those really good ones where when you go back and you read stuff with more context, it's like you'll find a new Easter egg every time because you have such a wide variety of one-off encounters, bizarre encounters in general all over Maine, just humanoid encounters in general. So for all the researchers out there that like diving into this stuff, really, really good reference book because every single time you go and look at it, you end up finding some new little Easter egg that connects with something else you've been researching. So props to you for your book, man. I've found it absolutely fascinating, and it's inspired a lot of stuff that I've researched on the show just because of, like I said, new little Easter eggs every time I read a snippet from it.
That's awesome, man. Thank you. And, next year I got another one coming out. It's called In the Pines. So I have a little Pines thing happening in 2026 with my Haunted Pines podcast and In the Pines book. But this is another book of collected true, nonfiction, strange encounters, and kind of like the podcast, it's kind of mirroring the podcast. So the podcast is mirroring the book, where it's bizarre true crime, but also strange tales. I might have teased this before with you. I don't remember, but there was this woman who had gone missing, and she was 5 days later on top of a tree alive. So that story's in the book. We have a large snake story, almost like an anaconda in Maine. And that happened in, I think 2015-ish. And their snake skin was found, which was like this 10, 15 foot long snake skin that it had shed, and the police found it, and people claim to have seen it. So that story's in there. And so I'm excited to share all these new stories.
Man, I'm excited for once that book comes out, once the show gets rolling and everything, man, we'll have to do another round and specifically make it all about the pines, my friend.
Heck yeah, man. And I do have a new mantis story that I'm sharing on the podcast as well. So,
well, once that comes out, we'll have to double back and be able to retouch back on that one. At least next time, we got already 3 things that we'll have to hopefully touch back up on. So we'll just have to make a list and make sure that we touch base on each of them next time, man.
Yeah.
And as usual, man, it's always a really fun conversation with you. Really, really looking forward to next time. And as soon as the new book comes out, as soon as everything gets rolling, man, we'll do another round and we'll dive into all your new work.
Sounds great. Shane, thank you so much. Always so awesome to talk to you.
If anyone would like to get in touch with me for any reason whatsoever, you guys can do so through email, which is inquiriesofourrealitypodcast@outlook.com, or through social media. Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok are the ones I'm the most active on. Or you can also get a hold of me through the submission form, which is up at the top of the link tree. And the last way you guys can get a hold of me is by calling or texting the Bizarre Reality Media hotline. That number is 313-364-1551, and you guys can contact me through that 24/7. And every single thing that I mentioned is all available in the link tree, which is available down in that show description. And with that, hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Hope the show connected some dots in your own reality, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a good night, everybody.
Reality isn't what it seems.